By the way, where did you get the your status from? Death is not the prelude of the end, but a node to a return of self, a return to beauty. That goes pretty hard.
No, I appreciate it, man. So that's from a song from Enigma, if you know
Uh,
what that group. And
nah, I'm not familiar.
it's the song called "Return to Innocence." It's one of my favorite Enigma songs. But anyway,
Right, right.
greetings everyone. You'll notice that I'm back, and this time it's with someone that's rather unfamiliar. If you guys usually watch the videos, it's typically me and my boy Gren, but this time I have someone special, someone who's legendary, someone who's been part of the fandom, someone who's probably older than I am. We have
No,
none other
no need to hype me. No need to
then
hype me.
listen, my guy, you're a legend. You're a legend. I have to give you your flowers. I have to roll the red carpet for you. We have none other than Hunter X Hunter Dick Riding Association, specifically 2011. You know, this is a guy.
Nice to be back.
Yep. Most of you guys would not know who this guy is. The OGs who were there on the YouTube days back in the 2010s would know who this man is, and you'd know him specifically. You know him specifically for his "the ants are worse than the human" video. And then on the description, there would be a long like piece of dialogue or like a quote from a TV show. I assume. You know?
Yes, it was from that quote is actually from that quote from Dolores from Westworld. So
Yeah, that's true.
which
That's correct.
I think was actually influenced by I think it was influenced by like a lot of the same people Togashi was influenced by, hence like the similar themings. But we'll probably get into that later.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. It's good to have you here. I'm glad that we're doing this. So the reason for this, for the purpose of this video, this is a much more random video. Strata, who I'll refer to as Strata, came up to me, asked me about this idea. He wanted us to discuss the Hunter x Hunter icebergs. And I said, sure, if you're willing to do it, I'm willing to do it. I'll oblige. And here we are. You know, this will be fun.
This is going to be so fun because like half of these ideas are absolutely ridiculous nonsense, and then the other half is like
yeah, it's legitimate because here's the thing. What's fascinating about this is that this iceberg is, I believe, it's before Togashi came back in 2022. So a lot of this stuff that's actually talked about here actually ends up coming back. For example, the hands and the videotape. And there's even something all the way back in the very bottom, the Togashi's Abyss, that's related to Kakin. And I usually call it the Kakin Diddy parties, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the YouTube safe version of it. But
yeah.
Absolutely. There were hints about it earlier, but the fact that Togashi actually went there.
Now it exists. Yeah, it exists. It's no longer an illusion. It exists, man. And then not only do we have the Kakin Diddy parties, but we also have the Riznorth files. You know?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Precisely.
All right. So there's 1, 2, 3, 7. Actually, no, 8. 8 tiers altogether. We got the Sky Normie tier. You're looking at your own version, right? I assume?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah, I got it all set up. We got Normie tier, Hunter Chad tier, Autism tier, Enlightenment tier, Transcendency tier, Morse Code tier, Eldritch Horror tier, and Togashi's Abyss. So it's all. I really adore the way this is formatted. It's like I couldn't have formatted it better.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
All right, let's get into it, man. So first, we have the Hermit Scroll is in DC. Now, obviously, the Hermit Scroll is related to the treasure that Hanzo wanted to locate, hence why he took the Hunter exam, because the Hermit Scroll, according to Hanzo, was in a country that wasn't available to commoners and like travelers. and therefore, if you remember the hunter license, you're able to access any bank. You're able to go to nearly any country free of charge, and you're treated as a celebrity of the highest level. And this is saying that the Hermit Scroll is not even in the old world; it's in DC. What do you think, Strata?
Well, one thing to note before we continue is that
Mm-hmm.
some of you might not be familiar with the Hermit Scroll if you only watch the anime in terms of like because the 2011 anime does mention it, but it calls it the Ultimate Scroll. And
Oh,
the
okay.
1999 anime, I don't think mentions it at all. So, in case any of you are unfamiliar with what the Hermit Scroll is, because I know there are people who like that, that's what we're talking about. If you read the early Hunter exam in the manga, which you absolutely should do, like definitely read the manga.
Mm-hmm.
I have to show that, but if you read that, that's where you get this whole explanation of the Hermit Scroll and like where it is. So, as for what I think it is, I do actually believe that the Hermit Scroll is in the Dark Continent, but that's actually related to a theory that we have further down in the iceberg for why I believe that has to do with like them beasts and other stuff that's in the Dark Continent. So I'm gonna save that for later.
Granted.
But just know that yes, I do think the Hermit Scroll is in the Dark Continent.
Interesting. Granted, we don't know. Well, because there's a large stretch of time in between Hunter exam from after Hunter exam all the way to Succession War. I believe, because I remember, if memory serves correctly, when it comes to the Hunter timeline, right now in the story we're in 2001, and Hunter exam began in late 1998, correct? And then Greed Island, it's the new year, and I believe that York New was in 2000. Am I correct in assuming that, right? And then and then Greed Island it became and then in the midst of Greed Island it was 2001, or did it become 2001 by the beginning of Succession War?
I think it was election arc, if I'm not mistaken, but
Yeah,
I could be wrong there.
because I'm that's what it says on the Hunterpedia when it comes to the timeline.
Right.
Yeah. So I assume that the story starts in 1998, and then sometime it becomes 1999, and then York News from 1999 to 2000, or it becomes 2000 at Greed Island, and then a large stretch of time happens, and then eventually it becomes 2001 by the beginning of this arc. So that's a good number of years. So Hanzo, who knows? Hanzo could have located the Hermit Scroll off screen, but again, Strata talked about it. We'll discuss it later, further down in the iceberg. Of course, I don't know about this because I didn't look at this in too much detail, and it's been years. The next that we have, we'll go with the easy one. Nanika equals I.
Yeah, that one is another one where the anime fans might not know it. It's because like obviously in 1999 didn't get
Yep.
there, and with 2011 it was never animated. But there's
Yep.
a manga panel that Togashi drew where he revealed that I is Nanika,
Bro.
and that she's from the Dark Continent.
Dude, I've had a conversation with this nincompoop over on the Hunter subreddit. This was months ago. He talked about it, but the crux of his corny little post was that he was talking about that Nen is inconsistent, that there's some flaws in the writing, and then he talks about he tries to critique Nanika or Aluka, and I told him like, listen,
that's the go-to because like it for anyone else, you can't actually like really critique it with anyone who has a brain cell can see that like the power system is pretty logically solidly consistent. Yeah. So the only thing you can really do is like attack the
now,
DSX manga that exists in like every story, mind you.
Mind you, Strata, this fool has not read the manga, and I can tell you why. Because when I did mention this guy legitimately thought I was talking about artificial intelligence. I'm like, you can't make it up, bro. You can't make it up, dog.
Nah,
but it's the funniest thing, bro.
The IQ of the collective intelligence
of the subreddit, yeah. I could listen. I could have I could only have half of my cerebral lobes intact, and I would still be smarter. And I would still be smarter than the collective of the entirety of that subreddit. Very confidently, in fact. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I think a lot.
Let's go ahead.
You talked about this before in another video, and we won't get like too distracted with it. But I'll just say that like a lot of the times, the issue comes from the fact that they don't read anything like outside of like what they're you know are attracted to. There's no like people like trying to educate themselves, like read like higher tier literature, trying to like because if you don't do that, then Hunter x Hunter is not going to make a lot of sense to you, just straight up. It's like, man, I'm not the first person to say this. It's like Hunter x Hunter brings in a lot of history, a lot of literature, and like if you don't get it, it's like you're going to miss out on like a lot of things.
Factual, yeah. All right. I don't think there's that much to talk about in terms of 9 = I. That's very self-explanatory to anyone who reads the manga. Next, we'll talk about another easy one. Hunter x Hunter is a soft seinen. Now, this is more of a meme that's circulated, and this was during the hiatus era, where if you remember the chart, there's like shonen, there's like shonen babies and soft seinen, and this was essentially made by the Hunter x Hunter agenders about how Hunter is much more sophisticated than the typical shonen, and in actuality, it's soft seinen. You know, and honestly, here's the thing: my Togashi glaze is about to come into full force because let's be real here, none of these mangaka come close. Let's be real, he's the greatest writer of all time. Succession was the greatest arc of all time. People, of course, typically, funny enough, the subreddit yet again. One post basically talked about if would Togashi have won a Nobel Prize and when it comes to literature. And I said rather easily, in fact, Togashi has no competition in this era, and the only era where he would even have competition would be the 1800s. Now, the 1800s is where you have some of the greatest novels and writers of all time. Your Dostoevsky, your Moby Dick, you know, possibly even the Scarlet Letter, your War and Peace, you know, like you have all these Jules Verne novels, you know, Treasure Island, there's a few others.
Let's not Journey forget Frankenstein.
What's that, man?
I said, let's not forget Frankenstein.
That's true. That's true. I don't follow my horror. I believe Bram Stoker's Dracula was also in the 1800s, correct?
Indeed. Like all the classics, basically, that we still like look to today.
Yeah.
The Barnes and Noble like section, like like that whole area was basically like the 1800s.
You have some of the greatest writers of all time in that era, and Togashi still outclasses them all. Easily, still to this day, none of them come close. If Togashi was born in that era of the 1800s, all of those phenomenal, excellent god tier writers that people of today look up to and exalt would look to Togashi as a god and kneel down before him. They would bend the knee. They would know they don't stand a chance. They would understand that writing has been solved. And in fact, that's, it's been solved today because let's be real here. Besides the exception of Ashihara, World Trigger's mangaka, none of these writers should just stop. They should just pick the pen. The only reason why they write is because Shonen Jump needs to pay the rent. Exactly. Because anytime Togashi comes back, Shonen Jump is eating.
Right, exactly. He is the king, and they're working the peasants as the rice fields. Surplus, more or less.
Yeah.
That he can on the masterpiece.
Yeah.
That's how I like it.
So in essence, as to why Hunter's referred to as soft seinen is simply for the fact that it's regarded as much more mature, much more philosophical, psychological, actually serious, actually has stakes, characters suffer, there's even...
it's not Blue Lock in the type of seriousness it does. It's not trying to be edgy where it's or it tries to introduce concepts in order for the author to get off on his own ideas. It's he's examining and studying the ideas in a way that he may not agree with, but like he'll absolutely explore the all the facets of the idea or like the theming that he'll go into.
Yeah.
And that's what really like brings the maturity to like full force as opposed to like other shonens that like people might consider as serious or like edgy, but it's not mature as
Mm-hmm.
such.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next one. Toriko Gourmet equals Hunter Gourmet Hunters. Now, I'm not a
I
Toriko
love this
fan.
one.
I've never read Toriko, but I do understand that the entire concept of Toriko is hunting food, and these people are like battlers, like martial artists or people who fight that collect like food or something like that. I'll let you take it from
So
here, Strata.
I've read a bit of Toriko, but in fairness, I have not gotten to the dark continent of the gourmet hunters like stuff. I'm only at like the very beginning because
Yeah.
I've only gotten to it really recently.
Mm-hmm.
I am enjoying it so far. It's like it's basically like DBZ with food.
Yeah.
Which was like I can understand why it got so popular. It's just like you have like they absorb like the nutrients from the food and like use it. So it's like I could see how it's like it's not impossible for like you to like try and fit Hunter x Hunter's and system into like the Toriko world, but that speaks more to like the flexibility of the net system itself that Togashi created than like anything having to do with like Toriko. It's just that like Toriko is just like this awesome like epic adventure, and like in Hunter x Hunter is designed in such a way to like facilitate those very same things because you know it's in like the same magazine. It's like they have similar goals, and that's that ends up and they all know each other. Keep that in mind too. So all these most famous mangaka that have like the big numbers in terms of sales, they all know each other. Yep. So they're always bouncing ideas off of each other, and like they don't consider it like stealing from the other's bag. It's all about like how well you can execute it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, some of these mangaka are kind of they're a bit under the table. They kind of go for those rabbit punches. They kind of they have like their Shonen Jump spies, their shinobis. You know, they probably have people intercepting their editors while like they're off to deliver it to the magazine. They snipe them and then they look through it like they take that photo and then they fax it over to their to the mangaka that they serve. You know, their shogunite, and then like and then Kishimoto was famous for this. Mind you, Kishimoto is a shinobi. You know, he's a ninja. So of course, a man who writes about ninjas, you know, the ninja comic, of course he's gonna have fellow ninjas, shinobi, deployed in order to steal from Togashi. You know, and he's been doing this for years, and Togashi had enough. And Togashi decided to go on strike, aka the hiatuses, and that strangled Kishimoto out of content. Hence why Naruto fell off during Shippuden's era. You know, this is factual.
Honestly, I believe it.
I believe, bro. It's true. You look at the timeline, the years, because Hunter x Hunter started going to frequent hiatuses. He started Chimera Ant in 2003. He finished Greed Idol in 2003. In 2006 was when he was starting to go on those frequent hiatuses. By that point, Naruto was past Part 1 era. It was during the Shippuden era, if I remember. And even before 2014, by that point, Kishimoto was in his Fourth Ninja War arc. And that arc was going on for a good number of years. It's his longest arc. So while Kishimoto, the thief, was writing the Fourth Ninja War arc, Togashi was still on Chimera Ant. You know? Of course, by that point, Togashi strangled him out of so much content that Kishimoto had no choice but to write on his own merit, and then clearly and obviously failed, hence why Naruto, you know, mythologically failed, and everyone saw Kishimoto, the disgraceful writer, for who he was.
Yeah? I wish that was the case, but in terms of the public perception, but he definitely wasn't able to succeed at all after Naruto ended. It's very clear that
yeah, he flopped like a fish, and he went back to Naruto, his own bread and butter.
Like, yeah, precisely. Once he had to like rely entirely on his own ideas with his like new manga, it completely like flopped and didn't achieve any
No,
of the notoriety
that could not.
Naruto
That could not
achieved.
be Togashi, bro. That could not be Togashi. This
Yeah.
man Togashi.
It literally
You
never happened.
rarely
Like he's
listen.
never had a series
You've
that
never.
that
There's
had
never been a
bombed ever.
mangaka that has made two successful different series that are like super popular. Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter. Level E is also popular, but no one cares about it in the West. Let's be real here. But they care about it over in Japan.
Right.
Oh. Anyway, we have Cortopi's death prediction. Would you like to take it from here, Strata?
This one always gets me because it's very sad, but also it has implications in terms of the power system, in terms of like, okay, did her fortunes like increase in their effectiveness and I feel like we probably should have said this earlier, but like there are gonna be massive spoilers, so if you're not caught up to the manga,
Yeah.
There'll be trouble here. But so he dies, and the prediction had stated he died in the exact way that the prediction said that he would. But the problem is that the predictions set are only when she made them, they only went so far as a month in advance. And this was a year later that this prediction came true. So that brings up the question of what's going on.
So the thing with with how I interpret the fortunes. The fortunes are absolute, no matter what. People like to say that, oh, like they're not in the time frame of September, therefore the fortunes aren't they're invalid. You know, they can't work. But here's the thing. People often forget that Pakunoda's fortune happened much earlier, and that's the funny thing with fate. If the cards are stacked correctly and the stars align, things can just happen much earlier, just because it can. You know, like it's a very fascinating ability. And you look at Shalnark, he died exactly as the fortune did it. Granted, Hisoka could have had like a bit of whimsy about it, and remember the fortune, and then killed Shalnark in a specific way because Hisoka's very he's tightly woven to the themes of fate when it comes to Hunter x Hunter. But I legitimately do believe that the fortunes are absolute.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the fortunes are all going to come true. Like even the fortune that Hisoka changed, like that he changed with the context of his Texture's Bride, I think that one's going to come true too.
Yeah.
Which is going to be interesting if
and Hisoka's parts of
you have
mm-hmm.
Radman who made the video on Hisoka versus Kurolo.
Yeah, that's true.
And like that's it. You know, everybody should go watch that if they haven't seen it already. You know, shout out to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he made an excellent analysis of how like you said, Hisoka is the one who has a deep relationship to fate and defying it, whereas Kurolo, he's more about being a willing servant of fate.
Yep.
You know, and shout out to Kurolo, by the way. I'm very much a Kurolo agenda gang. He's basically the one who like really got me into the series, if I'm being honest, because that Requiem scene always just hits.
Yeah.
But and he's getting even stronger now, so I'm looking forward to him getting his get backs on Hisoka for this. It's gonna be very fun.
Yeah.
No offense to the Hisoka fans. I really like Hisoka too, but he's just gotta go now. He's gotta go.
And next will be Illumi x Hisoka. Now, the fangirls. This is mainly in relation to chapter 377. Specifically, the fan scanlations, where Illumi states, for our engagement ring, Hisoka and I have created this prenup. You know, and as a result, these fangirls truly believe that Hisoka and Illumi are in love, or they're in a homosexual relationship. Clearly, they have no reading comprehension because they don't understand Hisoka's character. Because Hisoka truly cares about nobody. This is they love to systematically omit Hisoka's how Hisoka reacted and his thought process during the election arc. And Hisoka was willing to get ready to kill Killua, let go and die if need be, and kill Killua, kill Aluka to anger Killua, then kill Killua as a result, in order to incite anger from Illumi and then kill him in a battle to the death. Of course, they're Olympic gold athletes in mental gymnastics. So of course, just say, oh well, it's meant to be like a twisted homosexual relationship, like it's Rule of Rose like it's Jennifer and Wendy from Rule of Rose, the PS2 game, or some twisted dynamic like that. But of course, they're even more wrong, because Hisoka cares about nobody. Everyone to him is simply a pawn. This relationship with Illumi is just for convenience sake. And if you look at the way he interacts with every single character, he doesn't really care about them like that. He just keeps them around because they eventually serve a purpose for him. What do you think, Strata?
I think I'm gonna come at this from a slightly different direction. Sure. In that I believe that Togashi is not above using baiting.
No, obviously, okay.
Baiting. He's not above baiting the fangirls.
Yeah.
I think that's
Now, obviously,
that he takes advantage of.
Now, this is something I did forget, so I'm glad that you reminded me of this. Togashi famously uses sexual innuendos with characters. He's done this many times.
Mm-hmm.
This is not meant to be literal, though. He's done this with Gon and Killua. He's done this with Tyson. Now, with Tyson, it's like a much more deeper purpose, because Tyson is most likely a transgender character. And he's done this with Hisoka Illumi. Strata?
You there?
Yeah.
You cut off for a second. Hello?
No, I can hear you. Would you like to continue?
Yeah. So, I'll just say that, in terms of like how he likes to use the bait, I believe the reason he does this is because of and again, this isn't even new. He was doing this even back in the Yu Yu Hakusho days too, obviously. Yep. And his very first manga was I don't know how you pronounce it. It's something Cupid.
It's not even his first, honestly, because you have the stuff that's during I'm Not Afraid of the Wolf era, and then he was making a whole bunch of short manga, but his first long running manga was Tende Shaori Cupid, which I actually own the volumes for because I'm a goat like that.
Right, exactly. But basically, like he's very familiar with the genre tropes in that regard, and he's not above using them in his story to enhance the story in a variety of ways, and to keep the fans coming back, because a lot of the anime and manga industry in the East is sustained by these super fangirls. To keep in mind, it's like you can look at the example of something that's close to my heart, Kuroko no Basket. It wouldn't have gotten the production IG treatment if not for the Fujoshis. It's just like it would have been impossible. Okay, so it's like you have to, if you want to be like the top tier in Japan, you have to like tap into that market in some fashion. I don't put Togashi past him for doing that. And in fact, I praise him very much because he always does it super effectively.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of like actually like getting them like hot and bothered, but
because let's be real here,
it's often relevant.
Yeah, because Togashi is the same guy. Togashi is the same man, Strata, that managed to turn the fangirls around into Glazing Seti, the goat, the chosen one, Like, let's be real here, and I'm Seti's like greatest soldier. Like, if Seti tells me execute that guy for me, Heart, I'll do it willingly. I'll do it 100%. I'll knock that guy out, send him to the gallows. Now, next we have Zig Zoldyck as Zeno's father, and this character, people confuse the term Maha Zoldyck. Now, a lot of people think that Maha Zoldyck and Zig Zoldyck are separate characters. There are also a band of people who think that Zig Zoldyck and Maha Zoldyck are the same. Maha Zoldyck doesn't exist. That's a term that was created in the data book, which I also own because I'm the GOAT. And so Zig Zoldyck is a character that was mentioned post-anime in chapter 343 or chapter 344 if I recall. And he was the character that was with Lynette Audible and Netero back when they were in the DC days. And then you look at a panel in chapter, I believe it was 263 or 264, and this was in the volume 25 chapters of Chimera Ant, and there you see a little chart where Zeno is discussing in first person about Netero, and then he describes Netero as a venerable tree, and how Netero was always old, and he was an old man when Zeno was still a child, like suckling on his mother's. Yeah.
Like, let's just acknowledge that for a second.
Yeah. That he was suckling on his mother's. He was getting the nutrients from his mother, while and Netero was still an old man, still kicking it. And then you see the character that people assumed is Maha, the bald guy at the very top, and then you see another guy that kind of looks like Garo from One Punch Man. And I forget if it was Garo, the Garo-looking guy that was on top, that was over Xeno, or if it was the Maha character, the Zig Zoldyck-looking character. Because I believe Zig Zoldyck is the bald guy that you see briefly in York New, which, of course, the 2011 never adapts. Another reason why 2011 is truly inferior. But the 99 does show him. What do you think, Strata?
To be honest with you, to be completely honest, the Zoldicks are probably my least interested. It's not to say least favorite. It's like the 100 Hunter x Hunter topic that I'm least interested in. Not because it's bad, but just because, like, in terms of, like, the assassination, I have no idea where it's going to go. Because it really could go anywhere. Because he has it, like, Togashi has it perfectly set up with the assassin family that runs in the background, but at the same time, everybody knows about it. He can go multiple directions with that. And now that he's added, like, the advanced politics of the Succession War into the story now, too, it's like beforehand, like, you could say, okay, there's only so many, like, battles that he could put the assassins up against or use them. But now that he's opening up the politics of it more and more from elections to secession, like, their role in the story, I can only imagine is going to ever increase and become ever more complex.
Yeah.
So I won't be surprised if we get introduced to even more family members we had no idea about.
Yeah. Cause okay, so I looked at that page I was referring to.
And you fact the data books and, like, a bunch of confusion there.
Yeah, those data books. That data book is fake, and a lot of people got a lot of information wrong because of it, and it's set the community back for still. Even now, it's still set them back. But I actually just right now looked at that page from chapter 264, and you have the Garo-looking character on over Zeno, and that's basically meant to be Zeno's father. Now, I actually don't believe that was Zig Zoldyck. I actually believe the bald guy is Zig Zoldyck, who's actually the grandfather of Zeno. So that whoever that father is still an unknown character. You know, because you look at Zig Zoldyck, that character that we see in that page, same body type, very short. You know, he looks like that character that you see in that one page in York New.
Right.
So it has to be Zig Zoldyck, you know. So
at least that's the most logical possibility.
Yeah. There's also the possibility, because you look at the names of the Zoldyck siblings. You have Illumi, and then because every sibling has had the Milu, Kilu, Aluka, Kaluto. It's always has the double L's in the middle, and the very last words of the name of the sibling becomes the first word of, like, the next sibling. So, for example, Illumi, Miluki, Miluki to Kilua, and then Kilua to Aluka, and then Aluka to Kaluto. You could try to do the same thing for the older, you know, from you could try to do the same for Zigzoldyck. Of course, it'll be tougher because it's tougher to like trying to go from Zigzoldyck all the way to Zeno and then to Silva. Because
Right.
Zeno and Silva, like, you don't know how to get from there.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if the naming scheme was a policy that Silver introduced specifically, or if it was going on before.
It probably was introduced that by Silva, considering
right. Which makes me wonder why. Maybe it has something to do with his wife. His wife is like the most mysterious character.
Yeah.
Or like one of the most mysterious characters, because like he's absolutely crazy and like controlling. But at the same time, I have a feeling that like he might have like, this is just complete speculation, but I have a feeling like she might have a low key intelligence, because like, why did he marry her? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can't just be that like, oh, it was poor. She was poor and available. Like that was obviously clearly part of it. But it's like there has to be something more to it, I feel.
The anime onlys, so the 2011 fanboys, for some reason, I don't know why the 2011 does this, but the 2011 introduces Kanari and Kikyo and even Goto, I believe, as citizens of Meteor City. That's nowhere to be found in the manga, and therefore I don't count that as actual canon or as something is legit. So Kikyo is most likely probably comes from another different family, from like a pretty
probably
wealthy
like
lineage.
A rich family.
Yeah.
But we'll see, I suppose.
I wouldn't put it above Silva to be into eugenics. I wouldn't put it above that. I mean, hell, we're seeing the same thing with the Cocking dynasty.
Patient.
What's up?
I said, especially considering the nature of their occupation.
Yeah. All right. Next, we have Sonata of Darkness equals Hellbell. I'll let you take this one, Strata.
All right, the Sonata of Darkness. So, for all us Melody fans out there, this is where we get really sad, because our poor girl, she heard like the flute solo of the Sonata, and that's what did her arm in the nasty way, where like we can assume we never get it fully shown to us, but we can assume it looks something similar to like what Gon looked like when he was all emaciated after his battle with Pito, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Melody's goal is to find the Sonata and eliminate it. This goal is insane. Let's be clear. Yep. Let's be 100% clear that this goal is insane. But it's not too dissimilar from Kurapika's own goal of getting all the Kurta eyes. Hence the parallels drawn between them and why they're so closely bonded together. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a very good chance that we will hear the Sonata of Darkness played out in the story sometime in the future, and it will probably end up really mangling somebody. But the where and how of that is completely up to speculation as at this point.
Yeah, because Melody or Senritsu, she knows the flute section. She can play it, but the danger is that it affects her and it affects those who listen to it. Therefore, It's very unlikely for her to ever willingly use it unless the chips are down. There is also the possibility that Seti himself may have the music sheets of the Sonata of Darkness, which is a music that was supposedly composed by Satan. But it is a common theory that the Sonata of Darkness does originate from the DC, and which I would agree.
All the greatest things originate from the DC, as we know.
All right. Next should be, all right, let's discuss this one. Pito is neither a boy nor a girl. Take it away, Strata.
Okay, so any fan of Togashi knows that his concept of gender is very liberal, very progressive. It's like the progressives in the United States don't even like come close. It's like they'll look at Tagashi and be like, "Oh, you're going a bit far, us," you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great because it really allows Tagashi to explore gender dynamics in such a way that, as I said before, it very much enhances the story. And with Pito specifically, her lack of gender in both male or female aspects means that you don't, from a thematic perspective, you don't project any particular traits onto it because, like, a lot of the times with like gender, will only tend to associate certain traits with certain genders. So when you have a antagonist with an ambiguous gender,
Mm-hmm.
as Togachi will often use, they're able to use both the negative quote unquote qualities of like each gender and as well as the positive, and you're able to project that onto them, and that enhances them as a villain. That said, so there's that, and as Hisoka said, I'm not into bestiality, so
Mm-hmm.
either way, so
Yep.
there's that. Think of it.
I don't have that much to add in terms of Pito is neither a boy nor a girl. Obviously, in the manga and in the anime, if I remember in the anime, they were referred to as a they, correct? And in the
Correct.
manga,
And
they were as a he.
right, and also in the manga, they have Pito taking the position of the Virgin Mary
Yep.
inside that
Volume
one
28.
volume cover that goes super hard.
No.
Like y'all know the ones I'm talking about. It's just like that goes
Mhm.
amazing.
All
Like
right.
just Togashi at his best right there.
Yeah, the goat. And then
Dude.
this one's very common, very easy. Blackwell Mafia names equals Shueisha. Now, this was
I
revealed.
can't believe he did that. That is a crazy thing that he did. Like
Yeah,
imagine
the
that's
goat.
like I don't even know like an analogy. That's like that was like if you like like again, I don't even know the analogy, but it's just like giving the absolute middle finger to his bosses.
Yeah,
Like he clearly has the "I do whatever the fuck I want" card.
He did the same in the end of Chapter Black, where Itsuki basically told off Yusuke and his cronies and told them like, "Yo, haven't you had enough? Go find another enemy in your search of for your endless search for battle. You know, for your endless for this endless cycle. Sensui and I have grown tired of this living. We're gonna go off to chill." And that was essentially Togashi explained this in a doujinshi interview. That was basically his cry to the world at the time. And of course, Togashi, being the goat that he is, has so much more power, so much more clout. In fact, he's got so much more clout than Shonen Jump Shueisha could ever possibly do against him. They can't tame him no more. You know, ever since these hiatuses, he's been on a different level.
I think the only reason he's still with Jump is because of he said he owes something to his old editor. Is what it was.
Yeah,
so it's like for his sake, he's gonna make Hunter x Hunter the best like manga ever before like leaving, which is just like wow. That just warms. Well, that just warms the heart so much. Like if it doesn't touch you, I don't know what to say to you, man.
Yeah.
Like he really just said, "I got you, bro."
Yeah. I'll save the magazine. No.
He really said that too, and he really does basically like keep the magazine relevant more or less. Like him and One Piece is like between those two, it's like where would Shonen Jump be right now? I shudder to think.
I mean they got Gege the Fraud. They have Blue Mid. They have JJK's step manga. They got Gachi Akuda, which is just for meatheads. You know, literally about trash.
The thing is, like, it would survive, but like, it wouldn't be the top number one magazine that it is.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Yeah. Anyway, we have Go Next Killua. The fangirls love this. Take it away, Strata.
So, in terms of about person, I don't really see it. Like I can understand there, like I said, like we said before, the similar things apply to like last time it's Hisoka as Lumi that Togashi loves to tease these things and he loves to like bait. But in terms of like actual serious like character like thing, they're into girls, so and we've never been given evidence like to show otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Like not any to suggest otherwise. Like Gon is straight up not a virgin anymore, and Killua was jelly of that, and and it wasn't necessary. And it doesn't seem like he was jelly because it was Gon. It seems like he was just jealous, like in general.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's just my reading. If you have a different reading, I respect that. But yeah, I just don't think it's like actually a thing.
Yeah.
But like in terms of development, it's like if Togashi wanted to go in that direction in the future, I'll throw y'all one and say if he wanted to go that way in the future, I think he could do it amazingly and like better than like.
Thank God. Thank the heavens that Togashi doesn't write like these fools, and one, we're not going to see Gon and Killua ever again. So thank God, like they have to rely on their fan fictions, their little fantasies, their little reveries to construct these ideas. So and thankfully Togashi doesn't write on their level, Thank God,
right.
And then next we have Periston's Garden. I assume this is in relation to the 5,000 Chimera Ant eggs.
Yeah.
After the events of Chimera Ant. Take it away, Strata.
Yeah, so Periston, the evil bastard, this absolute mad political genius. the guy named after Paris Hilton.
Mm-hmm.
This man, he somehow well, I say somehow, but it was a very clever plan, but he managed to get his hands on 5,000 Chimera Ant eggs. Which can only mean and keep in mind Gyro's still around. And on his way to Meteor City. So logic would suggest that those 5,000 eggs and Gyro and Meteor City are at some point going to come together again, and it's not going to prove well.
Yep. When we see that subplot in, let's say, 30 years.
I actually have
mm-hmm.
a lot of faith in Togashi bringing Gyro back much earlier than a lot of people suspect. Not in this arc, I don't think, because he wouldn't fit in this arc. But I don't know. Like Togashi can do anything, so never take what I say as gospel.
Yeah.
Togashi could do anything and make it work. But I highly doubt that Gyro's gonna come into this arc. But
no, he won't.
The power vacuum that's left with the association, having
funny enough, Strata.
He could take advantage of.
Funny enough, Strata. This was during when Togashi was in his hiatus before he came back a couple months ago on Twitter. I had a dream where not Borkson, but, Otoshin, all these other guys, they're talking, they're basically walking down an escalator. They're walking down a couple stairs. They're walking down, and then on the opposite rail, you have a figure cloaked in the shadows walking up, and then in my dream basically said, "Yo, that was Gyro," and he's just walking up past them. It's inconspicuously done. It's it's not even focused on him, but he's there. It's one of those you gotta pay attention to the background, and then it's yo, it's Gyro.
Yeah, the thing is with Gyro is the perfect example of Tokashi's ability to just introduce a character in a singular chapter and imprint it onto the audience's mind forever and all.
Yeah, that character has insane potential.
Of another author who can do that legitimately.
Yeah, Gyro's such a fascinating character for the level of the shadow that he has over the story, how he still keeps people hyped and talking about him, and how there's so much to discuss about him, how much hype he has in just that singular chapter. Most writers aren't able to do that for a villain. And the fact that, it's insane.
Most writers aren't able to do that for the entire manga building of a villain.
Yeah, and Togashi
made one chapter.
Casually in one chapter. It's insane. Next, we have Zhang Li's real father. This is in relation to chapter 390, and a lot of people think that not only is Zhang Li the isn't actually the legitimate son of Nasubi, or who I like to call Bubblicious. They also think that Frodorus is the child of Broccoli. You know? Now, I actually don't read it that way. Because when he says father, I actually interpret it as Zhang Li, since he's ingratiated in the mafia, which this mafia is more like the triad, the Chinese triad.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the inspiration.
Yeah. So he referred to Onyor as Godfather, hence the father term, because he himself is deeply entrenched in the darker sides of society. But I'm the only one who even reads it that way. And a lot of people
I also did read it that it could have been like a not literal father type of thing when I first read it. It was only after the conception of like the introduction of like 401 where Togashi blew our minds again.
Yeah.
So again, like when nobody was expecting a huge revelation in chapter 401, he saw blew our minds again and made us have to go back and like re-examine the line. But like initially, I thought it was just like a term of endearment and respect, right?
Yeah. I mean, granted, even back then, people took it literally before the 2024 chapters that Zhang Li is the son of Onyor. And there are people who even had, this was in the Japanese side of the fandom, where they speculated that Hulkenberg was actually the child of Unma. And that's because they were looking at the noses and the eye shapes. And if you look at that singular panel of Unma in chapter 375, compared to like how Hulkenberg looks, for example, in chapter 386, you're able to see the similarities in the way they're drawn.
Yeah, you can see it for
sure. Same with my boy, the GOAT, the Chosen One. He has a panel that looks very similar to Netero in chapter 348 to Netero in chapter 298. Looks very similar, same eyes, same smile, same everything. Now, this one's funny because this is before the 2024 chapters. Hisoka disguised as a bodyguard. People had the theory for years that Hisoka was Bill. Hisoka was Bellarente. The only reason why they thought it was Bellarente was because of the heart emoji. The little heart symbol in that text when Berrigan was killed in chapter 370. Yep. And
that's so funny, man.
Yeah.
It was just like
people had this theory. Yeah, like it gave Bellarente some aura there, and people had this theory for years, just for Togashi to disprove them.
Right. But here's the thing, like, let me just say that, like, again, like we're gonna keep dick riding Togashi in this post in case that wasn't clear, as like the greatest of all time. And this is just another very clear example where it's just like this is like literal nobody. Like nobody could have ever like in any other series, nobody would ever pay this guy any attention. But because it's Togashi, he's able to give this guy a whole personality and a whole aura about him. Where people are speculating about him, like, man, maybe he's relevant. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like nobody else can do that.
Yeah.
I don't know of a single other person who can pull that off. Like the man just has that much personality where people think he's like anybody could turn out to be super relevant at any time because Togashi can just like pull that off.
Yeah.
But like even when he doesn't do that, like he's still able to like give them so much personality that we'll still be thinking about them like chapters and arcs down the line. Like maybe they're still relevant,
Yeah.
That's why we have this iceberg.
It's true, and it's fascinating because there's it's later down the iceberg, and it's like another Hisoka one. And I remember now that Hisoka wasn't even on the ship, but that completely disproved it. Like the fact that you had and this, mind you, this was during the hiatus, so this was before the 2022 chapters, and a lot of the stuff that we ended up learning from the 2022 chapters and the 2024 chapters actually disprove some of these things that are in this iceberg. But which is why it's interesting to do this now, because new information in hindsight, because now we actually have an answer to these things, and that's that Hisoka is not only on the ship, but he's not even disguised as a guard. Seems to have connections with a prince, and is out there gambling in the casino in Tier 1 while he's out there fighting these nen bums, these plumbers and milkmen.
He's just chilling.
Yeah, he's just chilling.
He ain't scared of nothing, bro.
No, he ain't scared of nothing, bro. Because he's fighting against plumbers and milkmen. What's to be scared of?
Exactly. It's like, bro. It's like, what do you think I'm gonna like put my hair on ends just because like I got some spiders after me? They're insects, bro.
Yeah. Hey man, my boy said he could do it too, bro. He could stomp these guys out. In fact, I'd say he could dog walk half of the troop as he is now. Mm-hmm. If it's SETI with like a month, if it's
the troop is,
yeah, if it's end of second week SETI, you know, in normal mode mental state, he'd dog walk at least 80% of the troop. If it's...
Because the thing is, like, the troop strength is in their thievery and not so much in their combat prowess. And people often forget that just because they can usually dog walk anyone who actually tries to challenge them.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, they're not actually combat specialists. That's not actually what they were designed for.
Yeah.
It was very specifically Uvagan who was, like, all about, like, I will be, like, the combat thing. Yeah. And I imagine, like, now that they lost him, that part of their operation is a huge weakness.
Mm-hmm. Now, SETI... at the end of a month, let's be real here, SETI at the end of a month not only dog walks the troop, but he basically is the strongest character in Hunter. That's objective. I know people like to call me the delusional Glazer, kind of like how Nick is like the LeBron Glazer to Skip Bayless, who's the Jordan Glazer. You know, like we're in this never-ending battle.
Here's why I actually agree with you, right? Because I can see why people disagree. That's very easy to see. But the reason I kind of agree with you, and like I see the vision, as it were, is because like if this arc is going to truly surpass the Chimera Ant arc, which it already has. Like
let's be real, it has. It surpassed it back in 2018.
But like in the popular consciousness, for it to surpass the Chimera Ant arc, it needs to have a level of villain equal to or even greater than the Chimera Ant arc. So, and Sari is literally very clearly being set up to be that villain.
Honestly, if you remember my 5-hour video, I discussed that you look at some of these feats, SETI has clearly surpassed these Chimera Ants. If SETI, 12 to 13-year-old SETI, met Ramot would be scared and he'd be running for the hills. He would not want to fight this guy. This is the same guy that shot a guy in the leg because he disrespected him. And SETI had the same Netero age 46, let me go in the mountains and punch 10,000 times mentality. Except, like, my goat SETI had this at the age of 12 to 13. He didn't need to reach his peak at the age of 46 and realize, yo, I'm kind of a scrub. Let me do this real quick. And then Medium himself said this was an emotion akin to insanity. And this was in chapter 292. So, you look at the Ren feats. You look at the water divination. You can clearly see. You look at the instincts. The fact that this guy created a second Nen Beast purely out of his subconscious, and his subconscious was so godlike, so beyond the beyond, that it created an ability specifically. It was like his consciousness, his subconscious beyond the beyond, somehow felt the danger of a potential assassination attempt the very next day. Because mind you, that ability, the banquet was on Sunday. He got that ability on Saturday. You know?
Yeah.
No one can do that. No one can do that. No. This is at the hands of a human being. This is at the hands of a human being, by the way. Not a royal guard, aka people who are meant to be the top dogs of Nen. You have a human who's out there casually surpassing these Chimera Ants and feats like it's nothing. And he's doing this casually, by the way. And that was only within a week of training. A week. Come on, bro. This is the greatest of all time.
Imagine if he had got eaten by the queen. It would have he would have like replaced. But like instead of Poco being like the basis for Merum, it would have been like him, and it would have been like as soon as he came out, like it would have just been over. Like his
would have been over, bro.
Would have like subjugated the entire human population. They would be like, what?
Yeah, that's the
goat. Like, I know, and again, I know it sounds like we're kind of gassing him up, right? And to be clear, it's like I want to see him go down. Like just to be clear, like personally, I want to see him go down. But I do not think it can be denied that he is like the strongest character that has been introduced outside of Merum.
100%. The Kurapika fanboys would disagree with me on this, but let's be real here. Kurapika, the ship has sailed, pun intended, in the hopes of defeating Seti. Because let's be real here. His best shot was before this man started training. Now it's over for him. Because let's be real here. A lot of anime onlys don't know this, but if you read chapter 108 and you get that page specifically about how Emperor Time really works, because a lot of these people think that Kurapika is top 5 Nenyus or top 10 in the series, when in reality he's probably top 15 or maybe even below even that. And a lot of the
thing about Kurapika is that he's not as strong as like a lot of characters.
He's only that guy when he's up against the spider.
The issue is like the issue is right. If you look at characters in terms of, like, I actually think like Hanzo in terms of like raw potential and like skill would probably be stronger than Kurapika. But the reason Kurapika ends up ranking so highly is because he's just that smart. And like in Hunter x Hunter, your smart does way more for you than your base raw stats.
That's true. That's the issue. It's just a shame that Seti's a god. Seti's like just one of the most intelligent characters ever. It's just a shame.
Yeah.
This is the same guy who, within seconds, immediately understood the most mechanically complex ability of all time. Remember when I forget his name, man. Castro. That's right, Castro.
Oh, Castro, yeah.
He was glazed by Wing as being extremely talented, and Castro has legit phenomenal feats because he's a born enhancer, and his doppelganger ability requires him to have trained and mastered transmutation and manipulation. You know? And these are the two... No. Transmutations. Conjuration and manipulation. The two furthest from enhancer, and this guy managed to do that. That's an impressive feat. That's a phenomenal feat that's barely ever been replicated, and Seti makes that feat look unimpressive simply by the fact that he created a Nen Beast completely out of his own subconscious, and that Nen Beast then gave him the most complex ability to see 10 seconds into the future and then change fate. And he could still make a whole other ability if he wanted to. The GOAT. Listen, he's the greatest of all time. You give this man a month, he destroys the world. Give this guy a year of training, no one's touching him. Netero in his peak would not be able to beat this guy. Beyond could not beat him. Jin could not beat him. I even said that he's the modern day equivalent of Don't Freaks. If you watch the latest video with me and Grant, I even talked about it, that this guy's the modern equivalent of Don't Freaks.
On the line. That with Terror Sandwich, he's going to most likely... Yeah, because, like, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that's relevant. Like, another reason why he's, like, very clearly being set up as the main villain is just, like, who is the one other character who's being set up as, like, main villain? Miranda. And like who has the biggest relationship to Miranda among the princes? Like the fourth prince. And who is she most likely gunning for? The fourth prince. So it's just like it's very I feel like the story is very clearly like setting it up as like, hey, this is like where the story is going.
Yeah.
It's like it's not very often that Togashi makes like the setup like very, very obvious, but like I feel like this is one of the cases where it is.
Yep. All right, we yapped too much about my goat. we kind of glazed him a bit too much.
We completely like, but this is another reason I want to do the iceberg because
Yeah.
like the iceberg, it connects to a lot of these different ideas and they're all relevant to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because I forget what we were talking about right before, but most likely it connects to like series.
We were talking about Zhang. No, we were talking about Hisoka disguised as the bodyguard.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that, right, we got way off topic there.
Yeah.
But
all right.
But in terms of like Hisoka disguised as the bodyguard, we got the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. Now, next is Gon-san was used to introduce the DC. I disagree because clearly it was Chimera ants that were used to introduce the Dark Continent. And that was literally explained in the final, in chapter 339 or chapter 338 at the top of the World Tree, where he even talks about how the Chimera ants that you and the chairman fought came from the world outside. Now, admittedly, I don't understand why this says Gon-san, which is referring to the adult Gon form, that it was used to establish DC. Strata, take it from here.
Right, so with adult Gon, I think what this might be referring to is like his like potential power level, like foreshadows like the power levels of the DC. Maybe that could be like a generous interpretation of what this means. Whereas, like, in the same way that adult Gon-san was able to just, like, squash, like, Pito like a bug in, like, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, that's a similar level of, like, threat. Like, the DC is, like, that's, like, the baseline of standard. Like, we can suspect from the DC, that's probably what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I was writing this, if I was making this tier list, I would have said instead of Gon-san was used to introduce DC, I would have said, the sperm that constructed SETI was used to introduce the DC. Because let's be real here. Gon, a.k.a. the 1 in a million talent, the scrub, who's vastly beneath SETI in terms of everything, in terms of fates, accolades, everything, needed a Nen conviction in order to defeat a royal guard. My boy SETI, most likely, within like half a year of training, would defeat Pito in a straight up 1v1 fight. And this is a SETI who does not need any Nen vows, Nen convictions, period, in order to defeat a royal guard and bring them to heel. If he did ever, by God, even use that, we don't want to talk about it. Let's be real here. He might, dude, he'd bring calamities to heel. He'd enslave the calamities. It would look like that, Grand Theft Auto 5 cover where the guy is holding the chaining up the dog, walking the dog. SETI's the black guy and the dogs are the calamities. Probably a Breon.
Yeah, probably go to the this other one that's on the top of the iceberg. The terror sandwich owns Pyro's head.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you don't know, it's like the head in the background of like
in relation
Barry
to chapter 349.
Right, in relation to chapter 349. He's sitting on the throne and there's a head in the background that is very similar to Pyro's head, and many people suspect, including me, that that probably is Pyro. Mm-hmm. And inside the mouth of the Nen beast of the very how would I describe this creature?
His noble steed. Obviously, that's how we used to describe it. His noble steed.
His noble steed. Like, she has inside of her mouth and another head that looks like Pyro. So we don't know exactly what, if any, relation Terror Sandwich has to the Quarter Massacre. But clearly, Togashi did this because, like, at some point, Kurapika and Terror Sandwich are going to face each other, and that's going to be something that's going to give Kurapika pause.
Me and a couple others, we discussed this in like a bunch of other Hunter x Hunter Twitter group chats, and we actually discussed that there's a deeper thematic to the fact that SETI Neon, and Crollo all had the eyes, for a time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
they all three specialists, all three come from like these very varying backgrounds in terms of like their homes. For example, Neon, she doesn't have a mother. All she has is a father. Her father doesn't actually like care for her as a father would care for a daughter normally. And when you look at Neon's actions, you can interpret it as it's an attempt to win over her father's love or get his attention, or that it's a cry for help. And then you look at Seti and what we find out, where he's potentially very likely the son of Beyond, is not even the actual child of the first queen and is most likely the child of Dwazil, the second queen. So this guy was most likely like never had any genuine parental love, any genuine maternal love. And then you look at Crollo, guy that came from nothing. We even got his backstory. He came from nothing. Did not have a mother, did not have a father. Yeah. So there's this very, very interesting thematic parallel with why these three specific individuals had the eyes, and what's the thematic parallel that's going on here, that's being weaved, considering how the eyes also ties into Wobble and how Wobble found peace, and they're also in the eyes. The reason why these people with the scarlet eyes are hated, they're referred to as the devil's messengers in the volume 0 chapters. And of course, there's also, and then that's like another element, which is the religious element, which is of course very heavy with Seti, very heavy with Crollo, and there's probably some of it there with Neon. And all three have like themes in tandem with Fate.
So this is gonna sound slightly unrelated, but there is Togashi was an editor on Kuroko's basketball, right?
That's true.
In Kuroko's basketball, there's a character who has a future sight ability with his eyes called Emperor Time. Oh no, not Emperor Time. Sorry, I'm confusing Emperor Eye. You can see why I got confused, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with Emperor Eye, he has he developed it because he was being abused by his father, trying to push him to develop in such a way where like he never fails and never loses, and he's always number one all the time. And I see a lot of parallels between that character and Seri, and I think the fact that Togashi had a hand in like both series is probably why.
Mm-hmm. I did read about that is mentioned.
If you guys seen Hunter x Hunter and Kuroko on the Basket, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that is mentioned in an interview between him and the mangaka of Kuroko no Basket. This is a very old interview as well. It's from the 2000s.
Yeah.
And we don't need to talk about the Mahazoldik one. We've already discussed it. We've already discussed the Gyro as the final boss. That's pretty self-explanatory.
I have a question for you, actually.
What's up?
Hart. So we mentioned like the eyes things, right? And do you think that the eye under the tongue is like, when you say the like the messengers of the devil, and you see like the eye under the tongue that like Zhongli has, like, do you think there's a connection there where it's like that's where the like the name came from? Where it's like you have like these like weird eyes, and like imagine if like the eye, we don't know like what those eyes are, but like imagine if they were like Kurta eyes, for example, if like you did that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely speculative, but like I feel like there's like some type of thematic connection there at the very least.
Yeah, you're referring to the eyes that from chapter 401, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that it's like multiple different references. Of course, there's the Resident Evil reference that people caught, and I believe it's from Resident Evil 3 Biohazard, or Resident Evil 2. I don't know my Resident Evil that well. And then
I don't really play horror games.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
And then this was actually when the chapters were coming out. Me and Grin actually picked up and realized that the symbols around the eye, under and on the underside of that tongue is actually the same markings that are used in the Nen inscriptions, or like the Nen inscriptions. You see these Nen inscriptions first all the way back in Heaven's Arena, and it was used in the string that Wing applied to Gon's finger. And then you see it again in the very beginning of Yorknu, in the box that Jing had for Gon, that was concealing it, that was concealing the box and the tape and everything in the ring. And it was also in the markings of the ring. It was also used in the markings of Nov's teleportation ability. So, and you've seen this many times. So that Nen inscription is like a Nen amplifier, but it's also in relation to the will, a command, or like something that you apply to your Nen, in order to fulfill a specific function. So I don't think that the eye has anything to do with the Kurta. Well, yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, so that's most likely what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond is very fascinating, but we're gonna get to him later. So.
Much later, yeah. And then we have Krollo's videotape. The reason why people say this is that they think that Krollo's videotape was chapter black. People thought this for years. People had that theory for years. And then Togashi went and shattered that in chapter 395. And it was just the cleaner Rangers. So we actually got closure on what that videotape really was after all these decades.
Which, by the way, I'll just say that the again, as a Corolla agenda guy, like the Phantom Troop backstory was like absolute peak fiction from start to vision. Like nobody expected it. Again, like this batch is like, I want to say it's probably like my favorite batch so far. But granted, I always say that for like every new 10 couple of chapters that I get out. But like really, it really like does elevate it like every time.
For me,
every single time it comes back.
It's fascinating, man, because I knew, considering what Togashi said in the interview in the Volume 0 book, where he talks about how, because people love to discredit our GOAT, man. They like to think that he doesn't plan anything, but in reality, no. He planned the Kurapika backstory all the way back in Yorknu. He just didn't have time to actually insert it, but he always had it planned. And in the interview of Volume 0, he talks about how he wants to eventually do one for the Phantom Troop, and that's basically like the other side of it. And we finally did eventually get that. That book came in 2013. So he always had, the makings of this were always there. There was also that panel in Yorknu. This was shown in the 2011. This was shown in the 99, and that's the shot of Pyro waving at Kurapika, and that's the last time he sees of him. And you also see that shot similarly in Volume 0. And in another question, Togashi reveals that Krollo didn't even nominate himself as the leader. And this was in relation to how Togashi feels about politicians. And that Krollo is the kind of leader that he would trust, simply for the fact that he never nominated himself, and that others enlisted him as the leader unilaterally. And we finally got to see that in chapter 397. So he had this completely planned out. And as for me, as much as I love, it's a phenomenal, like, that batch is phenomenal. It's, of course, a Succession War batch. Like, it's going to be peak. It elevates Yorknu greatly. Like, Yorknu was already a 10 out of 10 arc, or very close to it. And now it's objectively a 10 out of 10 or above. Like, it's a phenomenal God tier arc. And
like, Togashi is the type of writer where when he writes something, it's always going to enhance what came before, and that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Like, that is really hard to do. But it's like he consistently does it every time. There's not a chapter that goes by where like you read it and then you look back on another chapter and you don't get more out of it than you did before the first time.
Yeah. And as for me, when it comes to that batch, even when that batch came out in 2022, I still preferred the 381 to 390 stretch more, and that's simply for my expectations when it came to that stretch because I wanted my Hulkenberg subplots, I wanted my SETI subplots. That's why I'm a massive glazer of chapter 394 because it added so much to SETI's character.
Yep, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. And hence why the 401 to 410 stretch is my favorite batch over the 381 390 stretch, which to me is like one of the greatest volumes in all of Hunter. In fact, it was my favorite volume in all of Hunter for years until that stretch came out.
Yep.
And that stretch is going to be surpassed yet again by Togashi in January.
20 chapters are going to come out. Like, at least, like, right? Like, there's a
no, it'll be 10. It'll be 10.
No, I mean, like, overall in, like, the year. I don't mean, like, when he first comes back. But I'm being, like, because he already is working on the, because I think what's going to happen is, like, they're going to have, like, the 10 come back.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be another break. And then before the
year's out, he'll come back he'll come back in 2027 with the other 10 because that's how he's doing it because he's stocked up on 50 plus chapters. So he's working on 10 and then he's working on the next 10 when he does come back like next year, and then that 10 is now ready for the year to come out. So and then he's working on the other batch during that time. So he's always like working like 10 chapters ahead while we get the next 10. Because that's how he always did it, I assume. Yeah. Where he was coming back yearly from 2016 to 2018. 2016 the Hisoka Krollo chapters. 2017 he gave us the volume 35 chapters, and then 2017 he gave us 2017 was the volume 35 chapters, and then 2018 we got the 2 stretches, the volume 37 and volume 38 chapters, and then that basically sent us to the abyss.
Yep, that's precisely what happened.
Mm-hmm. All right, next. Emission is the best category, or equals the best category. What do you think, Strata?
Emission backend. Well, a lot of the most powerful characters we see are emitters, and emitters allow for teleportation, which is obviously pretty busted when used correctly. So. Have you ever seen this channel called Blade of the Grass?
No.
He has a decent video on like the Nen categories and like how each of them relate to like a cognitive perception. So it's like you have like their personalities and like have a superiority about them. So I think a lot of times like emitters can like seem more powerful like as a category than others just because of the way that they present themselves. Like look at Meruem, for example. Like Meruem's like the most powerful character we've seen. So we know the most powerful character we've seen so far is an emitter, and he acts like it. And also you have like Zeno and Silver who are also emitters.
This is only revealed. This was officially revealed in the Nen chart back in 2022. But for years, people thought that Silva and Zeno were transmuters because of the white hair Zoldyck theory, which of course Togashi destroyed.
But yeah, in terms of the quote unquote strongest category, I find it difficult to not see how it would be specialists. But like the thing about Hunter x Hunter is that nobody's necessarily limited by their category per se, right? Like obviously in actual practice they are. But it's like in terms of like the upper theoretical limit, I would argue like there's no best category, and maybe that's like a weak waffling answer. But it's what I truly believe. I don't think there's actually a best category that could fit into them. But in terms of like which category would I want, I'm sure like being able to teleport things would be really fun. So
yeah. All right. Next, Togashi's back pain. Very self-explanatory. Every Hunter fan knows this. The chronic back pain. He's had these ailments since the UU days. He worked like hell. Still cooking our boy to this day.
What's crazy about the back pain issues, right? For those who don't know, and he had surgery on his back recently, so hopefully that will prove to be good news, and he won't have to deal with like, as much pain as before.
Mm.
And he even said he talked to the doctors while they were while they were like working on him, and he was able to gain some knowledge from that he
Yeah.
plans to use in the story. So we could probably look forward to some Leorio action in that regard too. Which so good things come from bad, you know, bad
Yeah.
things come from good. It all balances out.
Mm-hmm. And
Shout out to the
next,
who take care of him. Y'all deserve the world. Big ups, big ups.
yep. Next is Dwun is a Togashi self-insert. Very self-explanatory. There's that panel from Greed Island. Now, obviously, I disagree because I think the biggest Togashi self-insert himself is Baka Oji from Level E, and of course, that's my favorite Togashi MC of all time. Most of these people who are listening probably never watched Level E, never even read Level E, but
bro, we got to do a video on Level E sometimes, just because like there's no good videos on Level E.
Dude, I've had like a video idea planned out in my head about the greatness of Level E, and why Baka Oji is a huge part of it. Because I'm someone who thinks that Level E dog walks Yu Yu Hakusho, but of course, they're not ready for that for that discussion yet. But look at it.
I think Togashi's brother even said.
Hideki Yoshihiro himself said to a guy that visited the store, the paper store, that Baka Oji is the most similar to his brother, and he said Baka Oji is at least 10% of Togashi.
Yeah.
Like you
look, and you can see it too. Like
yeah.
if you read a lot of interviews about Togashi, and like if you like really
because
so you can see like the very similar type of thinking, the type of like train thought that goes in his head.
Like very erratic.
I can't
Togashi and Baka Oji, they both do things that are interesting to them. They don't care about the hierarchy. They don't care about people like at the top of or like at the chain of command giving them orders. They just do whatever the hell they want. Sometimes they pivot away from their original goals because they find something that's more entertaining. Which you look at what Baka Oji is doing with the kids at the Color Rangers arc, where he just randomly decides to actually take the role of the princess just because he wants to troll, and he's his own worst enemy. But because of that, he ended up forgetting to program the Dark Lord. Or like Baka Oji, where he wanted to, in the Baseball Dream subplot, that arc, the Field of Dreams, where Baka Oji ended up screwing himself over because he was actually trapped with the baseball players in the dream, inside the subconscious of the player that's actually at the stadium. Like a really fascinating thing, Strata. A really fascinating thing, Strata. Baka Oji, like Togashi's such a god, bro, because the way Togashi, how he ended up marrying Naoko is the very same with Baka Oji. Both never wanted to be married, and then they ended up like having their arm twisted, and then they finally ended up doing it.
Here's the thing: didn't Level E come out like before?
In 1995, 1995 to 97. That was before. They married in 1999.
The relationship he wanted, I think, is what it was. Like he manifested that, as the kids say.
Yeah. Like, dude, he's so similar to Baka Oji. Like, it's insane. Like, the same thought process. That's why Level E is so special, man. Because in order to truly understand Togashi, you have to read Level E. You have to experience that story.
I completely agree. Yeah. 110%. 110%. Like, if you really want... Like, you can get a lot from just reading Hunter x Hunter, and you can get a lot from reading Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, if you really, really want to get into, like, how he thinks, you definitely have got to read Level E.
Yeah.
Like, 100%.
Oh, man. I love talking about Level E, man. That was a good little excuse.
Do too. We definitely need more excuses to talk about it. I'm just saying, because I love talking about it as well. Yeah. Like, I love all Togashi's work. And Level E is definitely up. Yeah. It's as good as Hunter x Hunter, 100%. If you haven't read it, it's a different like thing. It's not a like martial arts manga, which you're not as much of a meathead as I am. I'm a bit more of a meathead, whereas
Mhm.
I do like my balance.
Yeah.
So it's like I do like personally prefer Hunter x Hunter over, but that's
Oh no,
literally only
let's be
because of
real
the
here. Hunter x
violence.
Hunter is
Like
is objectively over level
in
E.
terms of like the
Succession War
writing, it's
exists,
as good. Right.
but level E's 100% above Yu Yu. Like it just has
Yeah.
the superior. The writing is just better, and the reason why I appreciate level E so much over Yu Yu is because level E is the story that Togashi truly wanted to write. With the
Right.
exception
Because the
of the
thing with
fact
Yu Yu,
that Bakuoji was never meant to exist. Because Togashi wanted to make an
uh-huh.
anthology series where there was no MC. The editor told him, yo, you gotta have an MC. And it was the single best decision that
And he
Togashi
put
made
himself
because we got the
into it,
best MC.
So he just said, "All right."
Yeah,
I'll just
and
put
he
my
cooked. He ended up cooking and made the
And he-
story better.
Yep. It's great. I don't. The thing with Yu Yu Hakusho is that Hakusho like decimates the big three, and it decimates like most other series that come along. But like in terms of like Togashi's body of work, it's actually one of the weakest, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's
That's-
like it's
that's
those
wild.
casual, it's those Yu Yu tard anime fans because they like to discredit Togashi and say, "Oh, the ending's kind of bad, man." Like they like to use the anime, but like, nah, dude. Like the
thing
manga,
about
the
Yu Yu
ending is
cards
damn
like, they're
good.
not even Togashi fans, high key. Like
Yeah.
the Yu Yu fans,
They're not
like,
Togashi
the really
fans.
hardcore
They're
Yu Yu
frauds.
fans aren't really Togashi fans. Like I like Yu Yu Hakusho as a Togashi fan, and I view it like as a masterpiece in that context.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't view it that way. They only view it as like old 1990. Their only relation to it is to the 1990 anime, which is good. Don't get me wrong. But it's just
No,
like
it's
they don't
garbage.
even like think
I'm
about
sorry,
the
it's
manga.
garbage, bro.
I disagree. I do like it, but again,
Have you read the
because,
manga?
like, I grew up with it. Yes, I have read the manga. Bro, are you kidding me, bro?
Let's be real here, bro. Because listen,
Yeah,
once I got older,
like if you're talking to anybody else, I get that.
yeah. Because let's be real here, man. When I experienced Yu Yu, man, I used to gas it up. Because these people like to say, "Oh, you only prefer Hunter over Yu Yu because like you have more bias to Hunter x Hunter. You probably have like nostalgia goggles for Hunter." Nah, dude, I'm sorry because I actually watched Yu Yu first and I finished Yu Yu first. I didn't even finish the 99 or the 2011 before Yu Yu. So I actually have more nostalgia goggles for Yu Yu because I watched that throughout childhood and teenhood. And then I watched it as an adult back in 2023 and I was like, "Bro, this is absolute garbage. The pacing's trash. It's boring." Bro,
it's not that bad.
Listen, man. The Four Saint Beasts and the Rando arc are some of the most agonizing things I've ever watched. The pacing was awful. The way they dragged the fights. In the manga, that's not there because the Togashi's pacing in the manga is slick as butter. And he just goes by these fights so quick. And then on top of that horrendous, garbage, pathetic anime completely ruins my Spirit Detective. And it removes the Kurama backstory.
Yeah, they remove a lot of things. I always tell people to read the Yu Yu manga first because they remove a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And like the beginning of Yu Yu Hakusho is arguably the best part. Like I would say, like we were just talking about like my personal bias. In terms of like what's actually like the best written, probably like the ending, like Chapter Black after Three Kings, like all that. But in terms of like what I like the most about Yu Yu is like
some parts of
just Yu Yu,
some parts of Dark Torment,
like,
especially with Togura. That final chapter with his repentance, phenomenal.
Absolutely. But yeah, I'm not here to slander Yu Yu because again, I love Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh no, I'll slander the anime. The anime is a 5 out of 10. The manga is a 7 out of 10.
Right, because the thing with the anime is who produced the anime again? I
Studio
think it was
Pierrot.
Yeah, Studio Pierrot, and like they got it became its own thing. The Yu Yu anime is very much like its own, like, how do I say it? Like it has its own like ecosystem, as it were. That's like not necessarily part of like the rest of Togashi's discography.
Yeah.
And
Togashi talked about this in Sensei Hakusho.
Yes, precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did. If you read that interview, he talks about, and he had a really hard time when to that.
Could you actually repeat what you're saying? You kind of cut off there.
I said Togashi had in Sensei Hospital. He mentioned that when he was planning to end the series, he was like he told his editors and like he was set. It's like no, I'm not extending it. This is where it's going to end. So it very much is like it's not like him at his most free is the issue.
Yeah.
And like Togashi's at when he's like at his most free.
Like that's why I love Level E, man. Cause Togashi, when he was making Yu Yu, he basically just wanted to make a story about the occult while having like the shoujo elements that he had like in 10 Day Shower You Cupid or I'm Not Afraid of the Wolf in his older works as well, where it had the romance elements. And then he was getting, of course, his arm was being twisted by Shonen Jump, the editorial, and they just wanted it because they wanted another Dragon Ball because that was what was hot at the time because Dragon Ball was kicking it in the early 90s. And Yu Yu Hakusho was actually running week to week with Dragon Ball. And Dragon Ball at that time in the story was, I believe, in the Frieza arc or the Cell saga or the Cell arc. Dragon Ball would end in would actually end after Yu Yu. Yu Yu actually had a pretty short serialization. It wasn't that long. I believe it was 1991 to 1993, correct?
Yeah, 1993 to was it 1994 actually? I don't.
No, because Dragon Ball ended in 94.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, you're correct.
So you had that pressure, hence Dark Tournament, hence Chapter Black, and of course Chapter Black he wanted to write his own thing. That's why I love Level E so much more and I value it more highly because you can tell this is a story that Togashi completely wanted to write with Level E. It's much more in line with who Togashi is. Togashi has more freedom. When you experience Level E, you know you're experiencing Togashi at his most natural. Whereas Yu Yu Hakusho is like a distilled version of Togashi. Whereas like you look at Hunter x Hunter, that's absolute Togashi.
Right.
Now
the whole package.
Yeah. Now we have Leonard Hardwa equals Beyond's mother. Obviously, that's referring to Leonard Audible, the person who traveled with Netero and Zig Zoldyck over to DC. And of course, we don't know anything about Beyond's lineage, who his mother is. Complete mystery to us. We know Leonard Audible's extremely old, like the oldest living character in the story thus far. What do you think, Strata?
I can see it, but I have no strong thoughts about it. Mm-hmm. Whoever Beyond's mother ends up being, I'm sure it will become relevant when it's important.
Yeah, hopefully we learn more. I'm very curious to learn more about Beyond because his presence, like his mystique, that character has potential to be one of the greatest villains in fiction, one of the greatest villains in Hunter, and an easy top 10 character in general in the series. You know, hopefully.
Shout out to my boy, Cherry Boy Writer, who wrote an article about Beyond a while back. This was before the big reveals and such, but I think it still holds up. It's called Hunting for Humanity, and I forget what the subtitle was. But if you look up Cherry Boy Writer and Beyond Netero, Hunter x Hunter, it should show up.
There's a very interesting, very fascinating video, and I forget the name of the channel, but he made this very interesting Beyond analysis. And of course, this was before the chat. This was during the hiatus era. I believe this is before the 2022 chapters, that video is so phenomenal because it proposed the idea of what if you have a character that's exactly like Netero but much more malicious.
Right.
You know? And that's what we ended up getting in 401, where we learned that this guy is genuinely evil. Yep.
Absolutely diabolical.
Now, we have we only have a few left for the normie tier, and we've spent almost 2 hours. Jing is a specialist. Now,
No,
we don't know. There's
we
really
don't know.
barely
But
anything to discuss
I'm
here.
putting my bets on a hard no there.
I don't even know what type he could be, what category he even belongs to. You know, when you look at his personality, he could be emitter. Who knows? But I doubt it, because emitter means like you're impatient, not detail oriented. He's obviously not an enhancer. He's not simple and determined. I'm not sure about specialist. He doesn't strike me as a manipulator. He could be. He could probably be a conjurer, or what was a or transmuter. One of those. But yeah, I've no thoughts on this.
Yeah. In terms of what Jing is, I think Jing is, if I had to guess, probably an enhancer, all things considered. But again, that's just a guess.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a specialist though.
Yeah.
But
and
again,
the Nen chart, in the 2022 Nen chart, Togashi, being the troll that he is, included him and gave him a question mark. So just to tease us. Yeah.
You know he must have been smiling when he did.
Yeah, just the troll, man. Like, you guys want to learn about Jang? I'll put him there, but I'll give him a question mark. And then,
these guys have no idea.
Yeah, and then second to last, Hisoka is the fifth protagonist. I can understand where this is coming from, simply for the fact that he's a character who appears quite often, sporadically throughout the series, but he's usually always involved with the MCs, and he's very thematically tied to the story in terms of detours and fate, everything like that. What it means to be a hunter.
He has the same double birthdays too as the other main characters.
Yeah.
Like Leora and Karapika.
Yeah. He started with them in the very beginning of Hunter exam. Like I can see it. He's a very significant character. And then what's up?
We're not super Hisoka glazers here. I don't think between the two.
Max is like the biggest Hisoka glazer. He's funny as hell. And I don't think I'm not sure if you know Max, but he's the funniest, man. Like he's like the equivalent of me when it comes to SETI.
You know how to party.
Yeah, it's like the Akainu Aokiji meme. He and I are basically like at the opposite ends, but he's also a SETI glazer. And I sometimes make fun of Hisoka because I call him the fake 4, the fraudulent 4, and I call SETI the real 4. Kind of like the equivalent of like Jordan LeBron, where Jordan is like the OG 23, and then LaFraud is wearing the 23 because he desperately wants to be like my guy. Except the reverse is happening here, where SETI came after, but he's the real 4.
I mean, I would say that's more accurate than what you implied, because, like, personally, I think LeBron is at this point he ranks higher than Michael Jordan did in his prime. But that's just my opinion.
I don't know, man. Dude took 20 plus years to accomplish what Jordan did in 15. That alone puts Jordan above him. 6-0, my guy. LeBron hasn't done that.
I'll acknowledge that. I'll acknowledge that Michael, like LeBron, doesn't have the personality of a champion. That is very much true. Whereas Michael Jordan very much does. Mm-hmm. But that's entirely unrelated, so we gotta get back on track.
Yeah. And then the final one of normie tier, the Kurta clan comes from the DC, which I actually agree with, because we find out in the Volume 33 chapters that humanity originated from there, and that we have deep ancestral roots from there. There are ancient labyrinthine cities, And of course, there are ruins, all these other places. We have like hieroglyphics, like a panel from chapter 339, or a panel in 338 in that legendary spread where we see the outer world. And people have speculated because the Kurta have the scarlet eyes that enables them to have enhanced physical strength. Hence why they're so feared, which is explained in Volume 0. And the fact that humanity originated from there. So it's very realistic. It's very logical to end in the train of thought that these guys eventually came from there, and they were like a special clan. And I'll even go as far as to say that the Nen that was used back in that day over in DC is a Nen on a whole different level compared to the Nen we have now, where those guys are probably stronger, lived under harsher environments, and Nen, or it was always like an intrinsic thing to the humans.
Right. They're probably what it is that if you consider the nature of the Dark Continent, any humans born there would have their Nen awaken at birth.
For example, Strata.
Like
it's very parallel to like our world, humans as we are now, and then Neanderthals during that era, and how they're far stronger, far different, and their anatomy was allowed them to basically hunt and deal with those large predators during that era. And that's essentially what DC was, where it's before the era of the dinosaurs, because dinosaurs, there were creatures even more before that, and several times the world kept getting these creatures in these like different eras were getting extinct time and time again.
What you said, you cut off.
Just multiple different eras where, but before the era of dinosaurs, where you had multiple eras where they kept getting extinct time and time again, and then throughout it all, the Neanderthals were still living. They were like shorter, stouter, but had much stronger muscle mass compared to humans. It's the same thing, but how I interpret it with Nen, where they're probably stronger over there. They're probably using Nen on a different level, to be in order to acclimate to that sort of environment.
Yeah, I think Togashi. This is just speculation, but I imagine Togashi based the Kurta initially on those clans that live way up in the mountains, where like the dumb low, so they're able to operate on much less oxygen and are like physically stronger as a result when they go down to like the lower oxygen area.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something akin to that is where he got the idea, and add in supernatural elements, isolation, the discrimination against the mountain clans and such.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out, George R. R. Martin.
Bro, that reminds me of that video I made. Not even J.R. Martin versus Togashi, not even close, and it's just Togashi as Muhammad Ali. Bro, that was like that video was also I think it got like 5-6 dislikes. I got the Martin fan seething.
Not because people are making the comparisons too much. It had to stop.
Yeah, it had to stop, bro. Martin does not come close.
Getting ridiculous. It's not only are these two completely different mediums, but even if you want to go there, it's just at least comparing to someone who's actually comparable.
Yeah.
It's people really glaze the modern thing, whatever is out at the moment, but even George R. R. Martin acknowledged he ain't even as good as Tolkien. So
not even as good as Tolkien. He doesn't come close. There's a reason why when he visited the UK and he saw Tolkien's funeral, he was thinking yo man, when I eventually die, am I gonna be revered like that? Because he knows that Tolkien's just on that different level, bro. Tolkien is the fantasy god. Dude, that man was making The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings in the midst of 2 world wars. Meanwhile, this man, Martin, in the comfort of his home, can do whatever the hell he pleases. Can't even finish his books. Can't even finish his series.
You can't even finish the series during a pandemic when like you're literally locked in with nothing else to do.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna make this all about hating on George R. R. Martin. Although I could do that, but we're not gonna. We're gonna move down to the Hunter Chad.
Actually, I think this would be a good place to stop because we're nearing 2 hours.
Videos.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll make this.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we'll make this as a series of videos, considering how long we're taking. You know how we go into this detail with each tier.
Yeah, because I was thinking it's like we'll have to speed it up if we want to get to, but if we take it like section at a time, then we can really dig into it. Especially once we get to the Abyss. Like the Abyss one might be like 5 hours long by itself. Like I'm not even joking.
Hopefully not, bro.
Hopefully not. But like
I don't want to deal with like another SETI 5-hour video, man. I don't want to deal with that nonsense.
Probably not, but you know there is indeed a lot to talk about, especially with the Kakin stuff that was revealed and with the Gones Adventure in Wonderland. That actually is something where I don't think it's like literally an Alice in Wonderland situation, but there are things there parallels to Alice in Wonderland that I do want to talk about, and like it does go pretty deep actually.
Yeah,
but that's gonna be fun when we get there.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you,
Strata. Thanks for chatting with me, man. I haven't like had a chance in like so many years to like actually talk to like intelligent people outside of like my small circle about Hunter x Hunter. So it's like the fact that like there's people out here like finally coming back talking about Hunter x Hunter, and like most of them have disappeared now, but like you're still there, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
and, like you're always gonna. I can tell you're always gonna be down here in the trenches with the rest of us, true Hunter x Hunter chads, as we await the God's return.
Yeah, Togachi, 100%, bro. No, I appreciate it. You know, like
brother.
Hunter x Hunter 2011 Dick Riding Association. Thank you for being here. Hopefully we continue on next time.